Well, hey gang, thanks for clicking this video. Paul M. Neuberger, the founder and CEO of the C-Suite for Christ movement, coming at you here. And we're live on location at the C-Suite for Christ Spring Savior Summit. We do these events quarterly all across the world to help our viewers, our members, our stakeholders live boldly and unapologetically for Christ. So accordingly, we want to bring in individuals that are living boldly and unapologetically in a lot of areas in life. And our keynote speaker for today's summit is joining us today. As a lifelong football fan and a avid consumer of all things ESPN, I'm a little kind of fanboying this guy here today, but it's a real blessing to have him. I'm joined by former NFL player and ESPN analyst Merril Hoge. Merril, thanks for joining us here today.
It's my pleasure, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So one of the things that I'm really excited to learn about, I know in your talks, in your messages, you talk a lot about mentality. Can you give us a bit of an idea of, I guess, what you're going to be sharing with us today from a mentality perspective?
Well, I guess the best way to start it is how I end up wrapping up, or building up to it. You know, and everything actually in our lives comes around this one thing. Do you control your mind, or does your mind control you? Like if we just centered around that's the challenge for us all. And there's a lot of things that influence that. And if you think about how you operate in life, everybody gets up every day. You choose to get up. Then you get to choose how you're going to approach the day. Then you get to choose how you handle things that come your way that you have no control over, how you're going to handle that. So do we let ourselves wander into anger? You know, we get upset. We go down a path because of things that have happened to us or things that didn't go right. Okay, do we have no control over? So we've lost control. So you lose control of your mind versus having control of your mind. So I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do A, B, and C to deploy this upon the day. Whatever comes my way, I will handle it in the best way. I talk to people like, do you react to things or do you respond? It's much better to respond to things, and when you respond, reaction is usually about emotions. That doesn't mean you can't have emotions. Emotions are a part of it, but how can you control those emotions and handle those emotions versus letting yourself go on a rant, okay? Now, the reason I kind of know all of this because I've done it all. I've done it both sides, so I know the value in it. Or do you respond? Do you take a moment and do you think, okay, what do I really control here? What can I do about it, and how should I go about it? Like if you walk through, I do a much better job of operating like that now, in how you go about orchestrating your day, your life. And that consistency has just brought a lot of peace and value to me and how I handle it. I've been a lot more peaceful, a lot happier, a lot more successful. And I think every person is looking for that. But the other thing is it all starts with you too. Like I can't make you get up tomorrow at 6 a.m. and your feet hit the ground, do A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. You have to choose that. That's you, and that's where I think people lose their power. That's your ownership. You're responsible for that. And when people realize that, they take ownership of that. They start to see how much a different life can be versus the influences that you have no control over, that you shouldn't waste any time on. You know, like young kids, but I think everybody is affected by social media. Okay, so if you're looking for likes and you're looking for insight, and there's a bad thing that comes social media, let's just say, it doesn't matter what platform. You don't know the person doesn't know you, but you're disturbed by the comment. If you just think about that for a second, you have just become their prisoner. Like, why would you value? First of all, you should value what you think and what you feel more than anybody else, but I'm going to now value somebody I don't know, somebody that doesn't know me, knows absolutely nothing, probably what they're talking about and what I'm dealing with, and I give that value. Mm-hmm. And so if you peel that apart, and people just sometimes don't, they see that comment's not a good one, it's not beneficial, and I let that fester in me. Versus, nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm responsible for my journey. I control my mind. I don't let my mind control me. And find a way is really about what's possible for people, and possible to people is that how to take ownership of your life, and live a better life, a more peaceful life, a more successful life. And when you can do those things, which we all can, we all have the ability, because we have the two greatest tools I use, the mind and the spirit. Mm-hmm. And if you can control those, if you exercise them and you make them work for you, boy, there's There's nothing that is not possible.
Yeah, amen. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about that spirit piece? Because one of the things that means a lot to us at C-Suite for Christ, we work together to educate, inspire, and empower executives to live their life boldly and unapologetically for Christ, to honor the Great Commission, to bring as many people to Him as possible. Obviously, you've had some trials and tribulations from the NFL to some of the injuries, and I know you're going to be talking about that here in a little bit. But can you talk a little bit about the role that faith plays in your life? What does that mean to you, and how do you incorporate your relationship with Christ and all the stuff that you do on a regular basis?
Well, I didn't have my understanding and my faith today is a lot different than it was at age 14. And I used age 14. I was actually going to start out with it today. I got in a farming accident where I only end up losing a little part. If I show my hand to you, you're like, well, that wasn't that big a deal. Okay, this hand got caught into a cogwheel of a machine that it's a wheel line that moves across the field, and in the motor, we have motors in the middle of them, and there's a series of chains. So there's these little chains and cogwheels that go really fast, the medium ones a little slower, and then these big ones that go a lot slower. And it's this torque that it's built to pull the pipe across the field. And I got my hand sucked up into the small one. And as it got sucked up into the small one, so if you can imagine a bicycle chain, okay, those spokes that come in, your hand going up in there and halfway in it. Okay, that's what happened to my hand. And as it's to the point where it's either going to rip my hand off, or my forearm, or even my entire arm, the machine dies. It literally just died, just completely stopped. Now, the interesting thing about that, I've been working for 2 or 3 years out there, and there's often times when wheels would get stuck in the mud, and I was trying to stop the machine, and then you have a lever that you can pull down, and there's always a time frame of distance before it stops. It never just stops. It just wasn't built like that. You could pull the level down, and then it would slowly gear itself down. When my hand went in there, first of all, it went in with a force that I had never experienced before, and it took me in a way where there was absolutely no way I was probably going to leave without losing my hand. But for the machine to stop on that day and not move, never move, that's just part of the divine intervention. I had never been out there with anybody. I brought my brother that day. Now, that wasn't part of the divine intervention, because when he comes down to see what's going on, he goes into shock. So now he's losing his mind. We're in the middle of nowhere, in the Mashad Flats, in the Indian Reservation. We're got hundreds and hundreds of acres around us. We're nowhere close to civilization. But when he goes into shock, I could see a car coming, or something's coming down the road, because I could see the dirt. And I see the turn, and it's my boss's truck. And he stops parallel to us. He walks in, and he's carrying a hammer and a flathead screwdriver. The only 2 tools you need to release the master link on the chain, because we didn't have any tools, you had to have tools. He carries that from his truck. I undo the chain, and then they take me to the hospital. Now, I go back to, he had never checked on me. He was in the middle of dinner with his family. In the middle of dinner, he says, I got to go check on Merril. He gets up, he leaves. When he gets parallel to me, before he gets out of the truck, something told him, grab a hammer and a flathead screwdriver. And he walks into the field. On that day, the higher power shut that off. There's no explanation that machine would shut off and never move or never release. And I actually released the valve too, by the way. I panicked, and when I realized what I'd done, I shut it back down. And how I come out with only losing a little bit of this finger, I have bad circulation in this hand, but I did not lose my entire arm, would have changed my entire journey. And there will be nobody that could ever tell me otherwise, that a higher power didn't step in that day and save my hand. And that's just one of many. I didn't know it was the only experience I had, but that was the start of it. And to fast forward today, what I have learned is that we all go back to the responsibility we all have, that my faith is stronger when I've done my part in life. When I get on my knees and I ask, I use the draft experience. My mom had died tragically just roughly a year before, and I was supposed to get drafted in the 5th round to the Raiders. We're now into the 7th and 8th round, and I haven't been called by anybody. So I actually went into my parents' bedroom, and I knelt on my mom's side, And my prayer was very just honestly genuine in the sense of I've done everything I could possibly do. I had complete peace with that. I had not done, there's nothing I could have done more. And I think that moment of truth right there is important for everybody. You know, and sometimes we get down and we start praying, and have you really done your part to this point? You know, or are you asking for things that, you know, you're still responsible to go do some work on? I've done my part. And I really prayed for not to play in the NFL. It wasn't, hey, I got to play in the NFL. Could you take me to a team? I was like, if I'm going to go to the NFL, get drafted, make it somebody that needs me. And if I don't get drafted, help me find a different path. And Paul, I'm telling you this, I got up and I was like, it was like a real calm and a peace over me. Didn't mean I was going to get drafted. I didn't feel like that at all. I didn't feel like I was going to get drafted. I was going to be okay. Where my next journey was, I was going to be just fine. And it wasn't like, oh, I know I'm going to play in the NFL now. Didn't have that at all. I just knew I would be okay. And when I started playing basketball, my dad said somebody's on the phone. Didn't even think about the NFL team. And this was about an hour later, and it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, that didn't mean I just made the team either. You know, I mean, there was an arduous journey in that aspect where, like, you have to do the work. But every step of the way, you know, I never look at my life and my journey and go, man, I did it by myself. I'm a product of a lot of people. A higher power has stepped in me. He has saved my life, and he has given me, restored my health many times in my journey, in ways that no human being could ever do it.
Well, let's dive a little bit deeper with that too, because one of the things that I really admire about you and your story is one word: resiliency. You know, there's no such thing as a straight path necessarily. I mean, you realized your dream to be in the NFL. I know there's been some health issues with respect to concussions. You've dealt with some heart issues. How have you been able to be so resilient during those valleys in the course of your life? Because I know for a lot of us that are believers, a lot of us that are business executives, you know, we all want to be the billionaire. We all want to have the organization that really takes off. There's going to be a lot of challenges. I think some people, they fall down and they don't get back up. You've gotten up time and time and time again. I know it hasn't been easy. So has there been a secret to your resiliency, and what can we learn from something like that?
Well, actually, you just said it. You know, people get down, they don't get up. You always need to get up. You know, and I go back to what I had said originally, that like taking ownership of your journey might be the most powerful thing a human being could ever really realize, is that you are responsible and you're in charge. And we lose sight of that because, you know, sometimes it's not what we did, it's what's done to us. And we harbor that ill will. When you harbor that ill will, that's like drinking poison and hoping the other guy dies or the other person dies. And that just erodes your journey. Your energy and focus becomes that. You know, being able to learn to push that away, push the trash behind you, to live by the one thing that you trust, and that is you. You're responsible, okay? You're responsible to be prepared. You're responsible to take action. You're responsible to get back up, okay? And then when you do all those things, there's going to be moments. I don't think that prayer is about, okay, in moments of desperation, now I finally get to my knees and say, hey, we should always, I mean, I think prayer is, to me, I see things through a child's eyes more than most adults. If you ask me to read a scripture to you, quote, I wouldn't be able to do it. That doesn't make my overall faith and strength and belief any weaker. In fact, I like the pureness of it, because I always check in too, in just giving thanks that I'm able to do the things I'm doing. And I'm open to say, if there's something I need to be doing or I'm not doing, you know, help me understand it, help me guide me. You know, I look for guidance of it, but then I also know as soon as I get up off my knees, I'm responsible. Nothing's just going to be handed to you. Nothing's going to be brought to me. You got to go do it. And if you do that and you do your part, I go back to, that is when I've been able to exercise my faith the strongest. When I know I got on my knees and I've asked for some guidance in direction. I'm at a crossroads. I'm at a moment of truth, I call it, in life. But I have peace with I did my part. Like I look in the mirror and I'm like, I did my part. I did everything I possibly can. And I think that's when I talk to people about moments of self-reflection, do it in a mirror.
Mhm.
Because that's who you don't want to let down. That's who you trust. You can't lie to that person. That person knows.
Right.
And if we're true to that person, more than likely, your life will be you'll be rewarded. You're not going to get an award for doing it, but man, you'll be rewarded with things that matter. And that's things like peace, joy, and happiness.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things I want to ask you too before we run out of time, you've seen a side of the world that very few people have seen. Very few of us have ever played in the NFL. You've had success in the NFL. Very few of us have ever been a popular ESPN analyst. I grew up watching you, which I really enjoyed. I know we were just kind of talking about that. But regrettably, I think some Christians today are being turned off by both entities. I know there's certain players in the NFL. You look at Kirk Cousins, C.J. Stroud, Tim Tebow back in the day that are wearing their Christianity on their sleeve. It seems like to some degree the NFL doesn't like that too much. There are some people out there that believe ESPN maybe has gone a little bit on the woke side. Are those organizations like the NFL and ESPN? Do they embrace Christianity? Are there a decent amount of Christians at those institutions, or are those places that seem to be somewhat hostile to believers like us?
Well, listen, I've been in both environments, and just in the organizations I was with, Chicago and Pittsburgh, even in the NFL, I have never felt, and then maybe it's part of nobody's ever going to make me feel that I can't express, my beliefs. Like there's nobody can ever tell me, and I'm not up for debate. I'm not going to sit and argue. Actually, I'd like to listen to people's views, and I think that there's oftentimes that you're better off to just listen.
Mhm.
We learn a lot more by listening than we learn by talking.
Mhm.
I've learned that there's great value in that. It's okay to listen to people. It's okay to hear what they have to say, and then you don't have to respond. There's no reason to jump into a discussion or an argument. That's never mandatory. But Paul, when you're asked that question, and just in all true fairness and honesty, in the environments that I was in those environments, the NFL, Steelers, the Bears, ESPN, I've never felt that my faith and belief needed to be hidden. I've never felt that. And I know what you're saying about television, how it kind of can come across like that, like, oh, we don't want to show that. I'm not going to say that you don't see that. I mean, I see that. But then I like the people that are like, well, you ain't hiding anything. I'm still going to say it. All right? And that's starting to shift, especially with the NFL. You're not hiding that anymore from them. And listen, we may always have a little bit of that battle, but I don't think that you have to be gregarious or, destructive in the process. You just have to be strong and pure and clean in it. And that's how I approach it. And so I'm not bothered by people who don't like it or think otherwise, because I have peace with it.
Good. Yeah, and that's certainly good to hear. In the 2 minutes that we have left, this might be a hard question to answer in 2 minutes. Your favorite NFL moment from your playing days?
Well, it would be hard if I added the entire stories that exist with it. But if I made it simple in order to follow the 2-minute time limit, is when I met Walter Payton, my rookie year. He indirectly had impacted me, and that's why I wanted to meet him. I just wanted to share with him how, because I'll refer to him today, but I wanted him to know how he had impacted my life. You never know what's going to happen from that. I think everybody's had a chance maybe to meet their hero or meet somebody they've idolized. And sometimes that turns out bad. You're like, that was disappointing. That wasn't what I was hoping for. And I can say this, that it was beyond anything I could ever have scripted. And still to this day, I probably think of him once a week, at least, by how he handled me. And when I say that, is I pontificated like a fool about all the things he'd done. He sat there and listened. And then what he said after that is what I've never forgotten. He first remembered my name, and he said, Merril, thank you for taking the time to come over here and tell me that. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. I'm going to stop right there. Was it the nicest thing anybody's ever said to him? He's the greatest player of all time. He's been playing well over a decade. I doubt it. But he said, and I'd asked him for an autograph. This is kind of what sparked it. So he took his headband off, his wristbands off, and his elbow pads off, and he handed them to me. He goes, "Why don't you take these?" And he said, "I want to thank you, though, for taking the time to come over and say that to me, because that was the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me." Mm. So here's why he impacted me, how he made me feel. And I just try to tell people, you never know what's going on the other side, or how somebody might come up to you, because it wasn't ideal how I came up to him. It was the end of the game. I mean, it's a preseason game. He's the all-time leading rusher. Does he got time for this? Well, he had time for it. And how he made me feel, I've never forgot that. And I try to think of that often when you get in a situation and it's not ideal and you want to, lose your mind, or emotion comes out and you're like, man, he took the time for me, and how he made me feel. Mm-hmm. I've never forgot that. And I try to do that more. That's been a role since that happened to me, is think about how to do that in your own life and affect others and pass that on. Mm-hmm. And just grateful for how he impacted me indirectly and directly. Then when I went to play for the Bears, I got all kinds of stories, but I'm not going to get into those. He was a true impact in my life that I think of often.
Yeah. Well, and just like, he impacted your life, you're impacting a lot of people's lives now too, through what you do professionally, through the speaking. We're all very blessed that you've impacted us in this conversation. We're looking forward to your talk here in a little bit. So, Merril, thank you for the conversation here today.
It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, gang. Well, again, thanks for clicking this video. If you want to continue to follow our bold and unapologetic Christian content, some additional interviews with people that are doing the thing like Merril Hoge, feel free to subscribe to the C-Suite for Christ YouTube channel. In the meantime, I'm Paul M. Neuberger, and we'll see you back here next time.